Good morning. I'm back with another short story, this one about the man in the moon. A few years ago, while watching the J6 events unfold, the watch on this statue had caught my eye. I Googled the statue and then realized that I had just studied that watch weeks before while working on a story about this man, Command Module Pilot Jack Swigert. Now, Swigert wore the Omega Speedmaster chronograph watch while he was lost in space on April 13, 1970, while he was aboard Apollo 13 on its flight to the moon. Often quoted as Houston, we have a problem, it was Swigert who radioed back to ground control to report the explosion, and it was this watch that brought them all home. The Swiss watch was waterproof, shockproof, anti-magnetic, and able to withstand temperatures and accelerations 12 times the normal force of gravity. The watch was released on April 9, 1970, just days before Jack's flight. Now, I'm not sure of the whereabouts of the actual watch, but a similar tribute watch was given to Swigert, and after his death, it had remained in the Swigert family for years. Eventually, it found its way to his nephew, having been given to him by his grandmother, Virginia Ann Seep, Jack's mother. Now, according to this blog post, The Fratello, and I have linked it below, the tribute watch went up for auction last year on June 9th, 2023, and it sold for $152,000. Now, if you are a clock or watch lover like me, you enjoy history and the lore of space, you should check out this read. It's a great tribute to Swigert and his watch. But what was interesting to me and how this story has evolved is that Swigert has ties to my Sleepy Hollow in Northwest PA. His great-grandfather was Joseph Seep, a Standard Oil man who bought and sold petroleum oil and lived and worked in Titusville and Oil City. Joseph Seep was born May 7, 1838 in Germany. And eventually he made his way to the States and then to the Pennsylvania oil fields. And he and his wife, Catherine, had a big family with at least 10 children, and one of which was Albert Henry Seep. And he was born 1871 in Titusville, and he was Swigert's grandfather. Now, I intend to do another video on Joe Seep, his introduction to oil, and his partnership with Rockefeller at another time. So Swigert joined the United States Air Force. He was a combat pilot in Korea and later a test pilot before joining NASA's Apollo space program. What's interesting is Swigert was not originally selected for the fated Apollo 13 flight. It was only after Ken Mattingly came down with a case of the measles and was quarantined that Swigert jumped into his seat, and from what I understand, this all happened in a matter of a day, and he was off to the moon. It was so unexpected that Swigert radioed back to NASA that he had failed to file his income taxes and asked for an extension. Now, 1 year later, and after his safe return to Earth, in March of 1971, Swigert visited his family in this area, and he gave a speech at the Cross Creek Resort, and he made his rounds to the Titusville schools to meet the students. And he was introduced as the famous astronaut and cousin of the then locals, Titusville Mayor Joseph Fleming, and other Titusville cousins, Bill Fleming, Mrs. William Stevenson, and James Harvey. He also was a cousin of Oil City native Joseph Harvey. Now, in this picture, you will see Swigert also took time to visit with his cousin, Lisa Vaughn, who in 1959 was named Oil Centennial Queen. And pictured here is also her mother, Catherine Quinby Vaughn, and she was queen of the Diamond Jubilee of Oil in 1934. Swigert's mother was born Virginia Ann Seep in Colorado in 1906, and she had married Dr. John Leonard Swigert. Of course, that was Jack's father, and they all worked and lived in Colorado. Now, after Swigert's time on the moon, he took a break from NASA. He was later elected as congressman for the 6th District of Colorado at the age of 51, but never served his country in that capacity, as he died of cancer on December 27, 1982, just days before taking office. Folks, there's so much more to this story that I just can't wait to share with you, so please stay tuned.